So if it feels good to you, you could close your eyes. If it feels better, you can leave your eyes open and just kind of rest your gaze on a point out in front of you. And as you start to pay attention to your breath, really notice how it feels as it expands in your belly. You can feel your belly rise and fall. Maybe there's a little sense of drawing belly in towards your spine on the exhalation, and of allowing your belly to expand on the inhalation. And you can feel too that breath doesn't just move in the front of your body, but also in the sides and the back. So maybe as you continue to breathe here with attention in your abdomen, you can also feel a sense of expanding and supporting in your low back. We'll take one more mindful breath here. And then begin to focus on how your breath expands in your upper torso. So you can begin with a sensation of breath behind your breastbone and along the undersides of your collarbones and the fronts of your shoulders. And then maybe you can feel how the breath moves in the back of your body. Between your shoulder blades, maybe all the way up to the back of your neck. And then noticing the sides of your body, and in particular, notice the movement of your ribs. Maybe even a slight stretching sensation of the muscles between your ribs. And now see if you can take your breath through the entirety of your torso. So expanding in 3 dimensions through your chest, your back, your shoulders, your belly. And as you exhale, there's this sense of hugging in. It's almost like your breath is a balloon, inflating with inhalation, drawing in with exhalation. There's always a little bit of support. There's always a little bit of almost tension there. This elasticity of the breath as you breathe in 3 dimensions. And let's continue to breathe this 3-dimensional breath. And you're welcome to recruit your Ujjayi pranayama if that is a familiar practice to you. Letting your tongue rest behind your top 2 front teeth and lifting your soft palate. Let's take a moment to change the cross of our legs. We've been seated for a while. Let's put the other foot in front or on top and begin to bring in some movement. With your next exhalation, you'll let your chin come down towards your chest. And your inhalation will roll your right ear towards your right shoulder. You can exhale, take your chin back down across your chest, and inhale, left ear to left shoulder. So we're just rocking chin through this half circle movement. And after you've made this movement for a few breath cycles, let's draw the top of the half circle. And rather than dropping your head back, think about keeping your neck long and extending your chin up towards the ceiling. And when you've done this an equal number of times to each side, bring your head back to the center. You can let it kind of wobble around on the top of your neck, finding a perfect, effortless balance. When you're ready to move, you can slide yourself off any sitting prop you might be using. And we'll shift our hips to the right and feet to the left. You'll sit on your right hip, Right shin will be parallel to the front edge of your mat, and you can kind of tuck your left knee into the arch of your right foot. You'll probably just be sitting on your right sitting bone, and that's okay. So from here, we inhale, reach up, and with an exhalation, use your core strength to twist right. We'll take one more in-breath here. When you exhale, left hand reaches for the floor on the outside of your left shin, and your right hand reaches over to the left side of the room. So now we can explore the sensation of breathing in between our side ribs. If it feels right to you, you can add some movement here. You could circle your right arm forward and down and back and up. You might even let your head and neck join this movement, so your whole head and neck and shoulder get a chance to release. Beautiful. We'll take one more big circle here. You can inhale to bring yourself to sitting upright, and we'll change the cross of our legs. So left shin comes in front, right leg will tuck back behind. Probably sitting just on your left sitting bone, and that's okay. We'll inhale and reach tall. Take a twist to the left as you exhale. Belly turns, ribs turn, chest and shoulders turn. Find your side bend, right hand reaching for the floor, just off the right shin. And you can take a moment or two here, finding the extension in the whole left side of your body, and in particular, feel the sensation of breathing in between your left side ribs. From here, we'll circle. You can draw your hand forward and down and back and up, maybe following this movement with your head. Eventually, we'll sit upright. You can exhale, release your arm. Unfold your legs for a moment. Just extend them out in front of you. You can give yourself a little massage around your kneecaps and the backs of your knees. You can circle your ankles, point and flex your toes, or shake your toes side to side a few times. And we'll shift over to one hip. You can take your feet back behind you and come to hands and knees. So we'll place hands under shoulders, knees under hips. Just begin a little bit of spinal movement with breath here, cat and cow. And let's start by inhaling to lift your hips up and back, to draw your heart forward, to lift your head. And then exhaling to press into the floor with what's on the floor and around. And you're going to inhale and lengthen. Exhale and round. And we'll take just a couple more rounds of movement in this flow with breath sort of way. And then let your next exhalation draw your hips back towards your heels. Arms will stay extended. Really press into your fingertips. Active in your arms, lifting the upper arms. You can even firm your triceps, firm the outer edge of your shoulder blade down onto your back. And from here, you can walk both hands over to the right. Reach back with your left hip. We'll walk both hands back to center, and with an exhalation, take your hands over to the left, reach back through your right hip. We'll inhale back to center, rock back up to hands and knees. And so we'll come back to our cat and cow. This is going to take a little bit of concentration, because this isn't the way you habitually do this. I want you to reverse the breath in your cat and cow. So rather than inhaling into the extension and exhaling into the flexion, I want you to think about inhaling into your upper back as you press your hands and knees into the floor. So the inhalation is the cat pose, and the exhalation is the cow pose. So this is really fascinating. Reversing this breath, because you can feel how the back of your body really does expand with breathing. And you can feel how the front of your body supports you. When you exhale into the extension, you can feel your belly lifting up towards your spine, keeping that abdominal tension, supporting your low back in the extension. And as you inhale, pressing into the cat position, you can feel all of the space opening up in your back ribs. I love this variation. It reminds me that breath is three-dimensional. And it reminds me that all of the muscles of abdomen and ribs and shoulders and chest, they're all breathing muscles. Let's do this one more time. Exhaling into the extension. Inhaling into the flexion. And then you can place your left hand under your left shoulder, left knee under your left hip. Angle your shin out to the side a little bit. And we'll rock over into Vasisthasana, side plank pose. So stacking right hip over left, grounding into your left knee. You're going to reach up with your right hand, root down through your right foot. Take one more breath here, and we'll turn this into a side bend. You can turn your right palm forward, reach your right hand forward, and we'll create extension now from right heel to right fingertips. Let's take one more exhalation here. With your inhalation, you'll reach up with your right hand, root down into your left knee. Lift all the way up to stand on your left knee, and we'll move this into Padagasa, gate post pose. Sliding right hand lightly down right leg, left hand reaches over to the right. You may notice a theme here. There's a lot of lateral movement in today's class. When you inhale, you can lift yourself back upright. Find your way back to hands and knees. And then we'll switch sides, and I'm going to need to create a variation here because I can't put weight in my right hand right now. But I want you to put your right hand under your right shoulder, right knee under your right hip, left foot is extended out, and left arm reaching up as we try to stack left hip over right. Reach left hand up, Vasisthasana variation, side plank variation. And then we turn left palm forward, reach left hand forward. Get that beautiful extension along your left side. So we can take one more big inhalation and big exhalation here. As you inhale, you can reach your left hand up, really reach, ground into your right shin, stand up, and take the side bend the other way. We'll slide left hand down, left leg, or right hand reaches over. Padagasa, gate post pose to the other side. When you inhale, you can make your way back to stand on your right knee. When you exhale, find your way back to all fours. And in your own time, over the course of a couple of breaths, you'll press back to downward facing dog. So you can start by tipping your sitting bones up and hugging your belly in, and then lifting your knees, and then pressing back and getting your arms extended. Once you find your down dog, give yourself 3 breaths of exploration. That might mean repositioning hands or feet if you need to. It might mean shifting around a little. I want you to check in with your shoulders and let them broaden. Check in with your hands and press into the bases of your fingers. If you'd like to walk your dog out, you can walk the dog here. And then gradually the movements become a little more subtle, and you settle into a downward dog that you can hold for 3 steady breaths. So holding the downward dog, and there might still be little micro adjustments. You might still notice places you could be more efficient, perhaps letting go of tension in your jaw and letting your teeth part a little bit, or letting go of tension in your neck and letting your head hang a little bit. From here, you can begin to move your feet forward towards your hands. And I'll invite you to take a slow stroll. Try to roll from heel to toe. Small steps, really exploring the sensation of your feet on your mat as you walk forward. And we'll find a standing forward fold with our feet about the width of our hips. So standing forward fold, bend your knees. Let your pelvis tip forward. We're allowing the pelvis to spill forward over the heads of our femurs. You can take your hands out in front of you to the floor or to a block, and then begin to ground down into your feet a little bit more. Let your head hang. You might even draw your chin slightly to the hollow at the top of your breastbone. Get as long as you can in your back body. And we'll take one more exhalation here. As you inhale, lift part way up, and make sure you've got your left hand on something. It might be the floor, it might be a block. We'll start to bend left knee and straighten right, and you'll notice how that tips your pelvis. So as your left knee bends, right leg straightens, right hip will lift up above the left one, and you can follow that lift with the twist of your spine. So the pelvis begins the twist, and then you turn your belly, and you turn your ribs, and you turn your chest and shoulders. We're spinning around to the right. Right hand might reach up. Gaze might look towards the ceiling. You can exhale to unwind this twist, and we'll switch sides. So now right hand roots down into the floor, into a block. Right knee will bend. Left leg straightens, and we feel the pelvis tipping. Left hip is higher this time, and you can follow that with your spine. Twisting to the left, the pelvis begins the twist, and you rotate belly and ribs and chest and shoulders, and maybe reach your left arm up, maybe turn your gaze up. You'll exhale, unwind the twist. Enjoy one more full breath in your standing forward fold. And then bend your knees, flex your ankles, bend your knees, reach your hips back, hug your belly in. Let's take arms up and overhead, Utkatasana. So feet are wide. That means knees and hips and ankles should all be the same distance apart. You're going to lift all 10 toes and then release them back to the mat. You can bend your elbows now and kind of interlace your hands around the base of your skull. Press your head back into your hands. You can use your hands to lengthen your neck. Let's get as long as we can in our spine. Thigh bones are dropping down and back. Belly is hugging up and in. And we're getting all sorts of space between vertebrae and between ribs. As you inhale, you can extend your arms. As you exhale, fold forward back to Uttanasana, standing forward fold. We'll inhale and lift halfway up. Softly bend your knees and take your right foot back. High lunge or crescent lunge. So we want right heel stacking the ball of the right foot, lifting right thigh, inner thighs hugging the midline, press into your left heel, slide your left thigh forward, and then start to work your way up. Maybe one or both hands come to your left knee. You can roll your shoulders back, maybe one or both hands reach for the ceiling. You can keep drawing your shoulders back. Maybe you bend your elbows, try to tip your hands a little bit behind your elbows, and then lift up and over the back of your heart into a bigger back bend. We'll inhale, reach up, exhale, take your hands down to the mat and step back to your plank pose. I'm modifying. You could modify too if that would feel good to you. And we'll lower. You might come down knees, chest, and chin. You might come down to your belly. You might be ready for chaturanga. When you inhale, come into a back bend that you can hold for a while. So I'm going to come into the Sphinx pose, forearms on the floor, shoulders drawing back, grounding into the tops of my feet and tractioning my spine into the back bend. You could be here in Sphinx. You could lift your elbows, floating them into Cobra. You might even be ready for Upward Dog with just your hands and feet on the floor. Let's take one more big inhalation in the back bend. When you exhale, you'll make your way back to downward facing dog. Find your downward facing dog, and you can take a moment, a breath or two to check in, check the placement of your hands, check the placement of your feet. Nice. So now in your downward facing dog, you'll inhale and lift your right foot, lift it straight up and back. And then you can stack your hips, twist your right hip over your left, bend your knee. Notice what just happened in your shoulders and in your ribs. So it's possible that your left shoulder dipped down a little bit. It's possible that your ribs jutted forward a little bit. See if you can really feel the twisting aspect of what you're doing right now. Square your shoulders to the mat, equally strong in both arms. Hug your front ribs in and feel your belly turn as you open your right hip up and back. Beautiful. That looks so amazing and stable. Try one more breath. When you exhale, you'll square your hips, hug your right knee into your chest, and place your foot between your hands. Back into your high lunge. You're reaching through your left heel. Lift your left thigh. We've got left heel stacking the ball of the foot. You can hug inner thighs in, pick your hands up. One or both hands can find your right thigh. One or both hands can reach for the ceiling. You can bend your elbows, drop your hands back, lift up and over the back of your heart for the big back bend. With your next inhalation, you can bring your torso upright. You'll exhale, hands down to the mat. Your in-breath steps you forward to half forward fold. And you'll find a full forward fold with your exhalation. Bend your knees, reach up, Utkatasana. Bend your elbows, use your hands to help lengthen your neck and upper back. You can re-extend your arms. Exhale and fold back to Uttanasana, standing forward fold. You can inhale, lift halfway up. Bend your knees, the left foot will step back this time. Reach through your heel, pick up your hands. Finding a high lunge. All right, this one gets a little tricky. Let's bend our elbows. Find the back bend. Take a full inhalation, full exhalation here. Inhale, torso back upright. We'll leave our arms in this sort of cactus position and start to twist to the right. Lots of core here. Belly turning, ribs turning, chest and shoulders turning. Keep pressing the backs of your hands back. Keep twisting and watch this leg. Really easy for it to go soggy. So reach from behind your navel out through your left heel, and at the same time, scissor your legs towards the midline for stability. All right, this might be your pose. This may be exactly where you want to be. If anyone wants a little bit more challenge, you can hinge it forward and try to hook left elbow to outside of right knee. Keep pressing your hands back. You can inhale, unwind that twist. Exhale, reach for the floor. Inhale, step back to your plank pose and lower through your vinyasa. You might come to chaturanga. You might come to knees, chest, and chin. You'll inhale to a back bend that suits you. Exhale to downward facing dog. And catch your breath. Always when we come to downward facing dog, you've got the opportunity to check in with the placement of hands and feet. You've got the opportunity to fine-tune, find the precision of the pose. And your next inhalation will lift your left foot straight up and back. So pausing here for a moment. The next inhalation, you can stack your left hip over your right and bend your knee. So now we're starting to open up the front of the left hip. And you're checking in with the twist and the stability of this pose. So notice whether you're kind of dropping into your right shoulder, if your right hip is dropping towards your shoulder, or if your shoulder's dropping to the floor, try to extend that right side of your body. Notice if your ribs are arcing forward. Try to hug them in. Actively turning belly as you stack your left hip over your right, and with your next exhalation, you'll square your hips, hug your knee to your chest, and place your left foot between your hands. Back to high lunge. Inner thighs hugging in, active in your back leg. You can pick it up. Bend your elbows. Take a breath in the back bend. We'll inhale to lift up. Use active, strong legs as you twist to the left. Watch this back leg. It likes to go soggy. So see if you can keep it extended. Keep the action in your inner thighs. Rotating around to the left, and this might be exactly the twist you need right now. A little bit more challenging. Hinge it forward, right elbow can find the outside of left knee, and you continue to press your hands back. When you inhale, you can unwind the twist. When you exhale, you'll reach your hands for the floor. Next inhalation, step forward, half forward fold. Next exhalation, full forward fold. Inhale, bend your knees, reach up, Utkatasana. You can release your arms down by your sides. Let's find center of gravity, plant it over your right heel, and pick your left foot up. Now flex your left foot, externally rotate, cross left ankle over the right knee, and take your hips back and your heart forward, and your hips back and your heart forward. Standing figure four. You can even reach your hands out as balance. If you like, fingertips could reach for the floor, giving you a deeper stretch in your left outer hip. Just make sure you're leaving your right knee bent. Gorgeous. So let's take 2 more breaths in the hip stretch. And you can inhale, stand it back up. Keep your balance. You're still balanced on your right foot. Step your left foot way back toward the back of your mat. And then pivot all the way around toward the back of your mat. Left toes pointing back, right heel angled. Trikonasana, triangle pose to the left. You'll deepen in your left hip crease. Pelvis is spilling to the left. Back of your left hand will come to the inside of your left shin or ankle. Press your hand in. Front ribs draw in and they rotate around to the right. Maybe your right arm reaches up. We can take one more exhalation here. Reach up strongly with your right hand. Come all the way back up to standing. You'll pivot your feet back to face the front of your mat. Find your balance as you pivot onto your left toes. Rock up, hug your left knee into your chest. And place your left foot back down, Utkatasana. Weight will shift into your left foot. Right foot left, cross your ankle over. Take your hips back and heart forward, and hips back and heart forward. Maybe hands forward, maybe hands down. Balancing in your standing figure four, really getting some space in the right side of your sacrum and your right hip. And checking with your right foot. You want that foot to stay flexed. We're kind of using our right shin as a lever here to open up the hip. So if your foot is flexed, that will stabilize your knee and help you transfer that rotation a little more cleanly to your hip without putting your knee at risk. Beautiful. All right, keeping the balance. You start to make your way up and out of the pose, and we'll step right foot way back. And pivot all the way around. And our right toes facing the back of your mat. Left heel kicks out to the side. We lift the right side of the pelvis up and over the head of the right femur. Back of your right hand can find your inner ankle or inner shin. Front ribs roll in and they rotate around to the left. Maybe reach up, maybe look up. You can inhale, reach up strongly with your left hand. Turn, pivot, face the front, step forward, right knee into your chest. Land both feet, Utkatasana. Exhale and fold for Uttanasana. You can inhale and lift halfway up. Plant your hands, take your feet back. You could step or float. You're moving through your vinyasa, maybe coming to Chaturanga Dandasana, maybe knees, chest, and chin, maybe to your belly. Inhale, back bend, nice. Exhale, downward facing dog. So check in with the placement of your hands. Make sure you're pressing into the bases of your fingers. Next inhalation, lift your right foot straight up and back. And then bend your knee and stack your hips. If anyone wants wild thing, flip it over. You can pivot on your left hand and foot, flip right over into the back bend. Nice, there it is. As you exhale, flip it back. So we're back in three-legged down dog. Take an inhalation here. Your next exhalation, once more bring your right knee to the floor underneath your right hip. We'll angle the shin across a little bit. And again, I'm going to come and support myself on a block, but you can place your right hand under your right shoulder. We're headed back to a Vasisthasana variation. And then maybe Ardha Chandrasana variation. See if you can shift your weight a little more to your right hand and take your left foot off the mat. So you could stay here working with the balance, working with the core. You could also add a back bend by bending your left knee, reaching back to grab your ankle. You can press your foot into your hand like you're drawing a bow, get a little tension between hand and foot. And we can create a back bend, rolling left shoulder and left hip open. Nice. From here, you'll inhale and release. Exhale, take hand and foot back down to the mat. You'll press back to your downward facing dog, and it'll feel really good to make some circles in your right hip here. So find some movement in your right hip after that stability work. And then you'll bring your right foot back down to the mat. And your next inhalation will lift your left foot. You can reach it straight up and back at first, and then stack your hips and bend your knee. Maybe you pivot on right hand and foot, and left hand could come right off the floor, and you might flip this right over into a back bend, wild thing. Yeah. Amazing. Amazing control, you guys. Exhale, flip it back over. Take a breath. And then we'll take left knee to the floor under left hip. Left hand is under or slightly forward of left shoulder. Right foot on the floor, Vasisthasana variation. Side plank variation. And then weight shift a little more left, and right foot floats up and off the mat. You could stay here. You could try the back bend. Bend your right knee, reach back, grab your ankle. You can press hand and foot towards each other. Draw your shoulder back, draw your foot back. Enjoy the back bend. You'll inhale, release hand and foot. Exhale, hand and foot come back down to the mat. Press up and back, and give yourself a little relief in your left hip. Some circles, some movement, whatever you need to do after the stability work. Beautiful. You can release your left foot back down to the floor. Take a full inhalation here. As you exhale, you can bend your knees, look forward, move your feet to your hands. You could walk, you could step, you could float. We'll find a half forward fold, full forward fold with the exhalation. Inhale, knees bend, reach up, Utkatasana. Exhale, you can extend your legs, release your arms, and find mountain pose. So in your mountain pose now, take your arms out to the side, bring them into external rotation, palms up, thumbs rolling back. And then cross your arms. You'll take your right arm under your left, and we'll start just cupping our shoulders, lifting elbows up and away from chest. This might be enough stretching your upper back. And you may notice that we're getting a similar sensation here as when you were in cat pose and breathing in. If you want to go a little deeper, backs of your hands can rotate towards each other. You can even try crossing again at the wrist and bringing your palms together. Garudasana, eagle. Eagle arms. We can inhale, unbind, unwind, bringing your arms back out to the side into external rotation, palms up, thumbs rolling back. When you exhale, left arm crosses under the right. You're going to hug your shoulders. You can maybe bring the backs of your hands towards each other. Maybe you cross again at the wrist. Upper arms are lifting. Inner edges of your shoulder blades are drawing back. Base of your skull is lifting up and back. Concentrating now on breath between your shoulder blades in your upper back. You can inhale, unbind, unwind. Let your arms release down by your sides. All right, so here, let's see. Let's go back to chair pose. So bend your knees. You can take your arms up. Keep your knees bent. Release your arms down by your sides. Let's shift weight into the right foot. You'll pick up your left, cross at the thigh, and maybe you just touch your left toes down on the outer edge of your mat. That gives you 2 points to balance. You could squeeze your shins together with your left toes off the floor. If you've got the space to work with, you could wrap your left toes around the back of your right ankle. Ooh, gravity gust. All right, from here, we're taking left arm under right. You could hug your shoulders. You could take backs of your hands together. You could cross at the wrist, lifting upper arms deep in the squat. Stay with your breath here. It's easy to hold your breath in eagle pose. So see if you can come back to expanding breath in your ribs and in your back. See if you can come back to a little softness in your jaw. It's easy to tighten in an awful lot of places in this pose. An awful lot of places where it's not necessary to be holding tension. So let go of any of the unnecessary tension. Then we'll unbind, unwind, left foot steps back. Straighten both legs, pivot. We're going back into triangle to the left. All right, so deepening left hip crease. You're spilling the left side of the pelvis up and over the head of your left femur. You can take your left hand to rest lightly on your left leg, right arm reaches out. Now moving through one of my favorite vinyasas, coming back and forth between triangle and side angle pose. When you exhale, you'll bend your left knee, start to slide your left knee forward over your left ankle. At the same time, your right arm sweeps down past your hip. Fingers will reach for the floor. As you inhale, extended side angle pose. You'll reach your right hand forward up by your ear. When you exhale, you'll take your right arm back down, left leg straightens. Inhale, reach your fingertips for the ceiling, and we're back in triangle. So pendulum swing in your right arm as you bend your left knee. Exhale, hand draws down. Inhale, straight line from right heel to right fingertips. Exhale, take it back down. Reach back up to Trikonasana. One more time to side angle. You can bend your knee, sweep your arm down, reach your upper arm next to your ear. Now turn your gaze down. You can take your right hand to your right hip. We'll start to shift our weight fully into the left foot. You can reach your left hand, let's say 12 to 18 inches in front of into the little toe side of your left foot. See if you can rock up into half moon pose. So we'll float right foot right up and off the floor. Maybe you're looking down. Maybe you're looking straight ahead. If you're feeling adventurous this morning, you might look up. You can turn your gaze back down, soften your left knee, step back to side angle, inhale back up to standing, turn to face the front of your mat. Ground into your right foot, rock forward, left knee into your chest, and plant both feet. Inhale, Uttanasana. You can exhale, release your arms, weight is shifting into your left foot. You can cross over, right leg crossing over the left, maybe toes touch down, maybe shins come parallel, maybe you wrap. When you're ready, add the arms right under left. You could cup your shoulders, you could rotate backs of your hands together, maybe you can cross again at the wrist. Holding in your eagle pose. Checking in with any unnecessary tension. I always find myself either holding my breath or clenching my teeth in this pose. If you have a similar experience, do your best to soften. Space between your back teeth, steady flow of breath. And then you can unbind, unwind, keep your balance. Right foot steps way back to the back of your mat, pivot all the way around, Trikonasana to the right. So we're letting the right side of the pelvis spill over the right femur. Left arm will reach up, and now we can move in and out of side angle. As you exhale, right knee starts to bend, left arm sweeps down past your hip. As you inhale, you take left upper arm next to left ear. We get the straight line from left heel to left fingers. Exhaling, big pendulum swing as you straighten your right leg in Trikonasana. Exhale, back to side angle. Inhale, extended side angle. One more time, pendulum swing. Inhale, Trikonasana. Exhale, pendulum swing. Inhale, side angle. You can take your left hand to your left hip, turn your gaze down, and start to shift the weight. Weight's moving into the right foot. You can shift your right hand forward 12 to 18 inches in front of it into the little toe side of your right foot. Left foot might float up and off the floor. You can reach your left hand up. You can look forward. You can look up. If your hand is on the floor, I want you to power up your left leg a little more. See if you can lift your left foot slightly higher than your left hip. Yes, that is it. Amazing. Top side of your body is a beautiful straight line. You guys all look fantastic. Take one more breath. You can turn your gaze down, step back. Inhale, straightening both legs, come up to standing, and now let's turn our feet parallel to each other. Heels slightly in, or pardon me, heels slightly out, toes slightly in. You can take your hands to your hips, we'll roll shoulders back, and as you exhale, Prasarita Padottanasana A, hinge forward at your hips. Hands will come underneath your chest to begin. We'll take an inhalation to get even more length from crown to hips. And with an exhalation, keep spilling your pelvis forward, spilling your spine forward, and hands start to walk back between your feet. See if you can let your your weight shift just a little towards the balls of your feet and the fronts of your heel bones. So hopefully not so much that it feels like you're going to do a somersault, but certainly shifting your weight a little bit out of your heels. Hips in line with ankles. Yes. We'll take one more exhalation here, and then turn this into a twist. So you can inhale, you'll lift back up onto your fingertips. Let's take right hand under right shoulder, and you'll spin your fingers to point out to the right. The fingers turning to the right. Take an exhalation here and start to twist left. You'll turn lower ribs. You'll turn left shoulder up and over the right. You might even reach your left hand up. Watch the left shoulder. There'll be a tendency to kind of nod the shoulder forward and then reach your hand back like this. See if you can take the front of your shoulder back. Tuck the tip of your shoulder blade under, that's it. And rotate from your ribs, not from the reach of your left hand. Yeah, if anyone wants to twist deeper, right hand begins to walk over to the left a little more. You'll exhale, unwind, walk back to center, switch sides. The left hand is grounding down now. We can start to twist, belly and ribs and chest and shoulders. Maybe right arm reaches up, watch this shoulder. Tendency is to internally rotate, nod the head of the shoulder forward, and then reach back with your hand. If you're doing this, you're cheating yourself out of the twist. So see if you can tuck the shoulder blade under, draw the front of your shoulder back, and rotate from your belly. If anyone wants to twist deeper, left hand starts to walk out in front of right foot. Fantastic. I love what I'm seeing in your shoulders, everyone. You can exhale, unwind, walk back to the center. When you inhale, lift up to your fingertips, hug your belly in. Hands will come to your hips. Next inhalation brings you all the way up to standing. You can turn, face the front of your mat. Rock forward, knee to chest, and stand on both feet. Inhale, bend your knees. You can reach down, reach up for Utkatasana. Exhale and fold to Uttanasana. Inhale, you'll lift halfway up. Exhale, plant your hands through Vinyasa, stepping or floating back to your Chaturanga. And your upward facing dog or cobra, nice. Exhale, downward facing dog. Inhale forward to hands and knees. And exhale to your favorite child's pose. Your arms can be wherever you like, pardon me. They could be back by your sides. They could be a pillow for your head. They could be extended. You could have knees together, which is a lovely stretch for your low back. You could have knees wide, which is a lovely release for your hips. So giving yourself 3 slow, deep breaths here. Somewhere in your next few inhalations, you can walk your hands back out in front of you, rock up to hands and knees, and then we'll place our elbows underneath our shoulders. They might be just even a little bit narrower than your shoulders. We're headed to dolphin pose. So you can bring your elbows under or a little closer together than your shoulders. You could either bring your palms together in Anjali Mudra, or you could interlace fingers and clasp your hands. Either way, we're going to press it with the little finger side of the wrist, broaden across our shoulders, and then lengthen from tip of shoulder blade down into your elbows. Use the outer edge of your shoulder blade nice and firm on your back. You can tuck your toes, lift your knees, keep pressing into the floor with what's on the floor. And we'll feel a sense of grounding into forearms and lifting sitting bones up and opposite to the forearms. You could be right here. If you want, you could start to walk your feet in a little closer to your elbows, getting more and more upside down. If at any point you feel your shoulders encroaching upon your ears or your head getting closer to the floor, walk back a step or two. Make sure you can keep all sorts of extension in your shoulders and neck. Keep that stability in your shoulder girdle. And if you walk your feet in, take a moment to walk them back out. Come down onto your knees and sit back again into your favorite version of child's pose. After that little bit of work, it might feel really good to let your forehead drop to the floor and let your shoulders rest on your knees so that your upper back and neck can really relax and release. Somewhere in your next few breaths, you can help yourself back to hands and knees. One more round of dolphin. You can return to the previous variation where you have maybe palms in Anjali Mudra or fingers interlaced. You can also try taking your forearms parallel and trying to flip your palms down towards the floor. This is an action that's really difficult for me with my arm in the brace here. But you would bring your elbows under your shoulders and then flip palms so you can press into the bases of your index fingers. Potentially, now coming into your dolphin pose with forearms parallel. And once more, if it feels good to you, you can walk your feet in. Continue to press. If anyone feels like taking a foot off the floor, you can get 3/4 of the way into Pincha Mayurasana, forearm balance. Yeah. If you lifted one foot, lift the other. Nice. Fantastic. Bring your foot back down to the floor if it's lifted. Walk your feet back and give yourself your favorite child's pose to rest. Finally, you can use the strength of your arms to walk your way back to kneeling. And then shift your hips over to the right. Take your feet to the left. All right, so this is going to take a little describing. This pose is called Ayur Chakrasana, which means wheel of life. And we want to bring our legs into deer pose, which is kind of this pinwheel shape. And you're going to sit down on your right hip, facing the front of your mat. So your right shin is parallel to the long edge of your mat. Your right thigh is parallel to the short edge of your mat. You want to be centered on your mat. Get your legs in this pinwheel. So now from here, you'll walk around to face the head of your mat. And this already feels like a stretch to me, so this might be my pose for today. But if anyone wants to go a little deeper, you can slightly pull with your arms, draw your chest forward. That will lengthen your right waist. You can come down onto your chest. Your arms can extend here. And gentler version of the pose would be right ear to the floor. Intermediate version of the pose would be chin or forehead to the floor. Strongest version of the pose would be left ear to the floor. So settling into this shape, doing your best to let go to the support of gravity. And now get curious about your breath. Really interesting to come back to our three-dimensional breath, that breath that we started with. Breathing into belly and ribs and back and shoulders. Doing that in a twist. You'll notice everywhere where there's tightness, anywhere that there's restriction. And it just reiterates this fact that all of the musculature of our torso really is breathing muscles. Muscles of the abdomen, the muscles between your ribs, the muscles of your shoulder girdle. These are all muscles that we use to breathe with. So exploring that. We'll try to be here for another, let's say 30 seconds or so. This is one of those poses you could hold for a really long time should you choose to, and still continue to get benefits from it. So maybe breath is getting a little deeper, even in the twist. Maybe breath is getting a little slower as we're winding our practice down. And somewhere in your next few breaths, you can begin to make your way out of the pose. So that might mean turning your head back to center. You can walk your hands back under your shoulders. You use the strength of your arms to help yourself up. And let's reverse this twist. So now you're bringing the other shin parallel to the long edge of your mat. Sitting on left hip, you can tuck your right leg back. We'll turn, walking around to face the head of the mat. And maybe lengthen your waist. You can pull slightly with your arms to lengthen your waist. You can come down and rest on your chest. Maybe reaching arms out to the side or overhead. And again, gentlest version is turning your head away from the twist. Intermediate version is facing the floor. Deepest version is turning your head in the direction of the twist. And now how does it feel to focus on the three-dimensional nature of your breath on this side? And noticing back and belly, chest and ribs, all of those places where our breath moves. All of those muscles that assist us to breathe deeply. Again, we'll give this about another 30 seconds or so. Maybe your breathing is slowing down, getting a little deeper. And somewhere in your next few breaths, use the strength of your arms, help yourself up. Then you can swing your feet out in front of you, soles of your feet to the floor. Reach your hands out to either side of your shins. Make sure you're centered on your mat, and we'll roll down onto our backs. And here, walk your feet in, bring your feet in line with your sitting bones, and maybe close enough that if you were to bring your hands down by your sides, you could maybe just brush your heel bone with the tips of your middle fingers. We'll take a moment to press back of skull into the mat, lift your shoulders, nestle your shoulder blades in. And let's think about hugging belly in, but staying deep in the hip creases. You can start with just a little curve in your lumbar spine. So rather than pressing your low back into the floor, see if you can kind of drop your sitting bones, drop your tail, drop your hip creases, let your pelvis, the top of your pelvis lift a little bit, and then press into your feet and kind of pull with your hamstrings to lift yourself up into the bridge. Once you get here, you can rock from shoulder to shoulder. You could even interlace your fingers behind your back and lift even higher. You could bend your elbows and support your SI joints with your hands. If anyone feels like playing with Ekapada, one-footed, you could pick up one foot, hug your knee into your chest, and then reach a foot for the ceiling. Try the other side if you lifted a foot. And we'll plant both feet down on the floor. Take one more inhalation in the bridge. Exhale and float your hips down to the mat. Once your sacrum touches down, it might feel really good to hug your knees, draw circles, draw egg beaters, circling legs in opposite direction, maybe even happy baby pose. If there are any other movements that would suit you to complete your practice, make those movements. We've got about 3 or 4 breaths in which to finish up. Find the movements that you need to be totally comfortable. And when your practice feels complete, settle into a position that you can completely relax in. So settling into your version of Shavasana, relaxation pose. You can let the earth take your weight. If there are any remaining bits of tension or resistance, consciously let those go and settle them down into your mat. And you can come back to your breath, feeling it move in your belly, feeling it move in your back, in your chest and your shoulders and your ribs. Let go of any remaining efforts surrounding your breath. Let the inhalations arrive. And let the exhalations ebb away. And once more, being curious about how breath moves in your belly. Gently disturbing your relaxation as little as possible, expand your breath into your belly. And continue to be curious. And disturbing your relaxation as little as possible, expand your breath into your back and into your ribs and into your chest and your shoulders. Returning to an awareness of the three-dimensional nature of your breath, of the elastic nature of your breath. Expanding on the inhalation, drawing in on the exhalation. And continue to deepen and expand your breath until it feels like the energy of your breath is moving all the way to the tips of your fingers and the tips of your toes. And then invite back some movement. Fingers and toes can start to wiggle. Hands and feet can start to move. Arms and legs can reawaken. As you wake your body up, there's no right or wrong. Find the movements that feel really good and the movements that grow spontaneously and organically and intuitively from your awareness of how your breath moves in your body. It should feel really good as you wake yourself up. Then eventually those delicious movements will carry you over to one side. You can rest on your side for a few breaths. And finally, use the strength of your arms to help yourself up, coming back up to a comfortable seat. Coming back to an awareness of the support beneath you, an awareness of your posture, an awareness of the movement of breath throughout your body. And finally, you can turn your palms out to the side and with a big inhalation, reach your arms up overhead. You'll exhale, bring your hands down the midline of your body to your heart. Anjali Mudra, a gesture of greeting and of gratitude. And let's close chanting Om together. You're welcome to join me if you wish. You are welcome to sit and listen if you prefer. If you'd like to join, we'll inhale and begin. Thank you all so much for sharing your practice today. Have a wonderful rest of your weekend. And namaste. Well done.